Hello all, welcome back to Consciousness Rising. Um, this is going to be my first video, as promised, looking at the tarot, which is a very ancient system of divination, and well, it can be used for all sorts really. I'm going to go. This is just a basic intro. I know there may be lots of people that watch this and might be using the tarot every day in your life. You might be experts. I don't claim to be an expert, but I've been studying for a few years now, and the tarot is a really powerful tool um, that's helped me in my life. I use it. I also use it with clients. I have a way that I use it with clients for sort of psychological growth and for therapy. If people are stuck in a certain way, there's lots of different ways you can use the tarot. But this is just the basics, the intro and basics of a few things that I'm going to sort of say. And then after this, I'm going to be going through the major arcana. There's 22 cards in the major arcana. I'm going to be giving my thoughts and feelings about them, and saying some things about them that I feel, and just presenting this information for people who may never have seen any of this, But this is an ancient art. With that being said, let's get on. So, tarot. There's a lot of misinformation out there about tarot, and you have to be a bit sort of. Well, I've found for me personally, I have to go to the right people who really know what they're talking about. And it does have sacred connections to the Egyptian, Hebrew, Irish, and English magical alphabets. Okay, so this is a very, very ancient system. You'll hear some people say, lots of different sort of different theories on where it originated from, but it goes way, way back. It goes back further than many people realise. Whenever you hear people talk about the Emerald Tablet of Hermes and the Book of Life, that is the tarot. That's what they're talking about. The tarot is the Book of Life, and it speaks to us on a very deep psychological level. And it's just been for me a very helpful tool. I learn from it all the time, and sometimes I don't even sit and do spreads. I just study the cards in itself, because we have been made as a society very symbolically illiterate. Now, the brilliant thing about the tarot is it gets, if used correctly and with an open enough mind, it can get us back in touch with symbols, because symbols have a very, very powerful effect on our subconscious. And there are some people that should not be in power that know this about us and use symbols in a subversive way. I haven't really spoke about that a lot on my channel, but we are constantly under attack through the media, through the use of subversive symbols. Now, the brilliant thing about tarot is it it's like psychic hygiene. It can cleanse you of that and get you to look in a way with different eyes to see, basically, and get you in touch with that intuitive, feminine aspect of yourself, which has been under attack for, years, let's face it. As I've put there, it is one of the four ancient sciences, the others being astrology, Kabbalah, and numerology. I know a fair bit. Tarot is definitely my strongest of those four. Um, I'm I'm fairly confident in Kabbalah to a degree, and numerology. I've dipped my toe in and out. My weakest is definitely astrology. I've said that before. Now, I cannot talk about the tarot without mentioning Michael Tsarian. He's been a huge influence and helper on me with this subject, and I think personally he's second to none. His wisdom on the tarot is amazing now, and what he does is he brings those four sciences together, because he says they are not meant to be studied separately. They are meant to be studied in conjunction with each other, and then they work as one system. He's got two books out on the tarot. One's called Path of the Fool, which gives you the meanings of the cards, but also he links it to those other sciences, as I say. And the other one is called Cards on Houses, and in that he's devised a system of using those four sciences to give you like a life reading by using the major arcana, and also you can do year readings, and you can do even day readings. It's quite clever. I use it. I haven't really done it for a lot of other people. I've done it for myself before, and it's brilliant. I highly recommend his work. Um, and as I've put there, there are many sort of faux tarot decks out there. You've got to be a bit careful. If there's a deck being sold and it doesn't have the 78 cards, it's not tarot and should not be even considered tarot. Tarot is 78 cards of living beings and helpers. They're basically consciousnesses. And I think I've got a slide sort of explaining that a bit in a while. The two decks I recommend, there's lots of different decks and variations. I mean, some people, you just go on YouTube, type in people's tarots collection. People just collect them rather than blooming. I mean, I'm sure they use them as well, but a lot of people end up with loads and loads of decks. I personally mostly use the Rider-Waite Smith deck. I find it really, really powerful. Although the Toff deck, Aleister Crowley's Toff deck, is extremely good as well. They are the two that I would recommend. I wouldn't really recommend any others. I know there are some others I've seen actually that have got some nice pictures, but I personally mostly use the Rider-Waite deck. As I said before, I use it in therapy. If I have a way of working in therapy where I don't give readings, okay, I can do that. I can lay them out in spreads and do readings for people or myself. But what I tend to do in therapy with someone is, rather than me giving them all the information, I'll use it as a therapeutic tool. So what I'll do is I'll usually get the client to choose 10 cards, shuffle the deck, choose 10 cards, we'll lay them out, and then I'll use my therapeutic skills and my sort of questioning and my ways of working with people in a therapy way to help the client interpret the cards and what's come out and what it means for them at the moment. I don't think any cards come out by accident, and if you go in with an open mind, you'll find that you can just learn loads. And actually, that being said, tarot basically is symbolic. They're just cards and they have pictures on them. What the tarot actually does is it unlocks your psyche. You're not reading the tarot per se, really. You're reading yourself, and you're using the tarot as a guide to unlock your subconscious mind to come to answers and come to new ways of looking at life. And what a beautiful tool that is. And yeah, I've found it that, I've said at the bottom, you are the Oracle and Zodiac. We're not looking at it as this some sort of magical tool that, although technically I suppose you could use it that, but it's a tool of unlocking the magic that's inside you. That's the way I kind of see it. So, that being said, we'll move on. The tarot essentially is really like 3 decks in one. And you have the Major Arcana, which consists of 22 cards, and they are numbered from 0 to 21, and they run from the Fool, being the 0 card, up to 21, which is the World card. Now, just looking at this alone is quite amazing, because they're telling you a story. They're a story of life. If you go from the Fool right to the World, that's someone's path, and many consider it to be the path of the soul in symbolic language. The Major Arcana is considered to be the big secrets of the deck. That doesn't mean they're more important than the others, I have to say, because a lot of people get that wrong. They think that the Major Arcana is really, really, really important, and that's not the case. All the cards in the tarot are powerful. They just have different ways of, you've got different ways of looking at them and working with them. You can just do a reading with the Major Arcana, and in fact, Michael Tsarian's Cards on Houses system, which I love, I think it's brilliant, only uses the Major Arcana to come up with, like I say, year charts, so you've got an idea of what's coming up for you. And okay, so they're considered the big secrets of the deck. They can also be considered archetypes that tell the story of the human soul, as I've said. They revolve in a circular nature, much like eternity. So, you start at 0, you go to 21, and you start at 0 again. They can be circular in nature. Carl Jung, I've been getting quite heavily into Carl Jung. I mean, I've always respected him, but he done a lot of work on archetypes of the collective unconscious. And, tarot really is archetypal. They're archetypes that come up time and time again. I probably will do a video separately on Carl Jung one day, because he really was a very mystical, intelligent, spiritual kind of guru sort of figure, and there's much to learn from him. But yeah, the tarot are archetypes of the human soul, really. Then you've got the Minor Arcana. The Minor Arcana consists of the remaining 56 cards. It consists of 4 suits that run from the Ace up to the 10. Each suit also has 4 Court Royal cards. The Minor Arcana is considered to be the smaller secrets. Some people wrongly consider these to be less important than the 22 Major Arcana. The Minor Arcana is said to contain all of life's lessons that we can experience while here on Earth. And as I say, I'll go through them in a minute. But yeah, you've got 4 suits, and each represents different things. And in a sense, they're very journey-like as well, because you've got from the Ace to the 10. That's like a journey or a stage that you're in currently. If the 6 of Cups come up, later down the line you might be on the 7. It doesn't necessarily work like that, but they tell a story pictorially. So that's the Minor Arcana. And then you've got the Court Royal cards. These I actually struggled with for a while. And a lot of people, sort of, when they first get into tarot, they get a grasp of the major and the minors, but they struggle with the Court Royal cards. Now, for me, my kind of understanding on them is that, they often represent, when they come out, they often represent people. Now, that not necessarily the client, although it could be. So this is where you have to use those investigative skills and sort of open questions with people and say, who does this represent for you, or does it represent you at a certain stage? Interestingly as well, you've got the, I can't remember which psychological school it comes from, but this big psychological school kind of did this sort of exploration into personality types of human beings. And interestingly enough, what they actually discovered through psychology is they actually come to think that there are 16 personality types that humans either are. There are 16 in the human sort of family. Now, interestingly enough, the tarot being ancient, it has 16 Court Royal cards. I do not think that's an accident. I think that the tarot is actually way ahead of psychology there. And I find that really, really interesting. So yeah, as I've put there, they often represent a person in a reading. They also represent personality types of human beings and can also represent personality types of just one person. So not necessarily other people, but can represent us on lots of different levels. So I've put, 8 there, and the other 8 are here. So yeah, they're just striking images. Aleister Crowley gets a lot of flack, and I don't know much. I know a fair bit about Crowley, but I know that I can't deny that his knowledge on the tarot was fantastic, and I think that his top deck is very powerful. And he's got a quote there: each card is, in a sense, a living being, and its relation with its neighbours is what one might call diplomatic. It is for the student to build these living stones into his living temple. Powerful, powerful words. And often, I don't always, sometimes I do, I pull a card for the day. I don't often recommend that, actually, because often with tarot, you're not just really focusing on one card. When you do a spread, or you pull a couple out together, it's the story between the cards that is the interesting part. And I think that's what he's saying there, really, in that quote. He's saying that its relation with its neighbours and the way it comes out in a particular spread that's kind of where your mind comes in and tries to make these patterns and connections between the cards. So you're not just looking at the cards, you're looking at how they relate to each other. And that's powerful, and it can really unlock that right side of your brain. Pattern recognition. Okay, I'm going to go through the suits really briefly now. I've put the aces and the tens pictorially for you to show you. So they all represent different things. Wands. The suit of wands represent energy and willpower. They symbolise the way we formulate plans of action. They also represent libido and energy levels in general. Their associated element is fire. Then you've got cups. The suit of cups represents our emotional state. They can reveal our psychological and emotional state. They can reveal our emotional undercurrents and what lies beneath the surface. Their associated element, as you can see there in the ace, is water. Swords. The suit of swords represent our mental temperament. They reveal the nature of our thoughts and intentions. Okay, so you're talking about the mental realm there. Their associated element is air. And if you see there, you've got on the ace, you've got the nice cloud, and just striking images. You've got the suit of pentacles, although Michael Tsarian, I can't remember his reason for this, so forgive me, but he says they shouldn't really be called pentacles, they should be called discs, and I cannot actually remember the reason why. So, the suit of discs refers to our day-to-day existence. It's the physical world and work life. They can represent physical wealth and also our health of body and general well-being. Their associated element is earth. And I just have to point out while we're on this slide, if you know anything about Kabbalah, you'll notice straight away when you look at the 10 of discs that those 10 discs are laid out in the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. I might have to do a video separate and then link the two together because it's very deep, this. Okay, spreads. This is just a basic one. There are lots and lots of different types of spreads available. In fact, one of the most beautiful things about tarot is it's so versatile you can actually invent your own. A lot of people don't get that. They go tearing around looking for different spreads. Put your intention first, and I would recommend doing this first. Just do a really simple 3-card spread. Past, present, future. Have that intention as you're shuffling and pull 3 cards. I think a 3-card spread is a perfectly good start. Look at, like I said before, don't just look at the cards. So, you might, you might pull the Hanged Man for the past, you might pull something for the present. Look at how the Hanged Man represents your past, but also where he's led you to the present card. It's the story between the cards. That's the real genius of tarot. And a good reader is very good at sort of looking at pattern recognition, which actually I spoke about on my very first Consciousness Rising. And when I asked that question, what is consciousness? The higher levels of consciousness, people with higher levels of consciousness, they seem to be very, very good at pattern recognition. So yeah. And even you could extend this. So you could keep the same format, and in fact I've done this for people, and I've done a 9-card version of this. So you pick 3 cards in a line going down for the past, 3 cards for the present, and 3 cards for the future. And that's just expanding on this same idea of past, present, future. But there's so many. You can even look them up online. Go on YouTube, look at what other spreads people use. There's loads. I don't really like the Celtic Cross. I'm not a big fan of that one. A lot of people like that, but hey, use it as you will. There is a really good one, actually, that I do use sometimes, that came from Thomas Sheridan, and it's a 7-card spread, and I'll maybe do a video on that separately, although it is his work, but yeah, I'll talk about that another time. That's very good for if you're stuck in a rut or you need an answer for something. Remember, as I've said at the bottom, is the story between the cards where the depth of the reading lies. And what I've done here is showed you some different versions of the Rider-Waite deck. The Rider-Waite deck is my favourite. I do like Crowley's Toth deck, but I just feel so connected to the Rider-Waite deck. So, they've been recoloured and sort of reprinted over the years. I actually ended up having I ended up owning all 3 decks, and I can't even remember how that happened, but the one on the left is the sort of like the classical version. I actually gave that to someone I've been seeing in therapy who took a shine to tarot. I actually gifted him a tarot set. So that one on the left is the sort of classical version. In the middle is what's called the Radiant Rider-Waite Smith, and as you can see, they've changed the colouring. They've tried to make it more vibrant. And on the right is actually my favourite deck, which is my personal deck, and I'm really, really happy with it. And that's the Universal Rider-Waite deck. And if I was to recommend any, it's all personal preference. Like, no one's better than the other because they're all the same. But I really, really like the colour balance in the Universal Waite, which is the one on the right. So that's the Fool. There's the Magician. You can see the colour changes. The Radiant Rider-Waite, the middle one, is really nice. I do really like it, but I prefer the slightly subtler version of the Universal Waite. And apparently, like, there is some theory that the colours are actually more correct in the Universal Waite if you want to be really strict with it. But I've used all 3 decks, and they've all been great. But my personal favourite is the one on the right, the Universal Waite. Powerful imagery there, guys. I'm not going to spoil it because I will be talking about each card on the Major Arcana, so I'm not going to go into that today. I'm just showing you the images. There's the High Priestess, as you can see. The old some people might even prefer the old classic look. And you can pick a tarot deck up fairly cheap, I think, on sort of, I don't know, get them on eBay or whatever. Yeah, the Radiant's in the middle, and they've got that border on the Radiant. I don't mind that. Some people don't like it. I've seen some people cut their borders off. I think that's mad. But that's just me. But yeah, it's not really important. You don't really have to be picky. It's personal preference. But yeah, again, I think the Universal looks brilliant there. I wanted to include a couple of images to show you the difference, because the Thoth deck is very different. New artist, a lot of work went into it. Everything is very, very symbolic on that card. So that's the full Universal weight on the left, and that's the Crowley's Thoth deck on the right. I just wanted to show you the difference. I might do a video on the Thoth deck. We'll see where this series goes, but it's nice to get started today. There's the Magician. As you see in the Thoth deck, they sometimes change the names a little bit, so he's called the Magus. Same card. But yeah, there's actually 3 different versions of the Thoth of the Magus. I didn't even know that till the other day. Be a bit aware that if you buy the Thoth deck, because I bought the Thoth deck, but the version I bought, I didn't really read it. The cards are a bit big. There's this like quite sort of jumbo version, and they're a bit clunky to sort of shuffle. So they do a normal version. So it's personal preference again. But my version of the Thoth deck is quite big and clunky, but I still like it. The imagery is absolutely stunning. And there's the priestess, the high priestess. As you can see, the imagery is very different, but the concept is very similar. And she's called the high priestess on the Rider-Waite, and on the Thoth she's called just the priestess. And he calls them the trumps. The major arcana, he calls them the trumps cards. Yeah, that's about all I've got today. Really, it's just a brief intro, and the next episode I do, I'm going to start with the Fool, and I'm going to do the major arcana. I'm just going to look at the Fool, and I'm just going to talk about the Fool and what he represents to me, why I like it, maybe give some other variations of it. But yeah, so yeah, the tarot, powerful tool, really good, psychic hygiene, getting you to use that right side of your brain, that feminine aspect that we all have. And I didn't mention spiritual androgyny actually, because I noticed actually some of the cards, not all of them, some are obviously female and some are obviously male, but some of them it's hard to tell. And I think it was the Saurian that said that what they're actually going for symbolically is spiritual androgyny. And what that means is the alchemical wedding. It's that balancing of those 2 natures of ourself, the masculine and the feminine, because that is true enlightenment. It's bringing those 2 aspects of our natures together, so we're not in duality anymore. And the tarot is a great tool for that, because most people are left brain dominant, which is masculine. So the tarot can help you get back in touch and strengthen that feminine side of your nature. There we go, guys. That's it for today. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.